Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to an SP Reacts where today we have ourselves a track from an act named Vynez titled Ashes to Echoes, and if we switch over to here we have ourselves a track on the screen on YouTube. We've got features from Be Real as well as TDP Boba Fatsax, who I have reviewed recently and I enjoyed my time with their music. We're going to listen through this track from start to finish and we're going to hear what we think. Let's do it, let's go. What do we got?
Let's get it. Light, smoke, puff, pass. Light, smoke, puff, pass. Puff, pass. Puff, puff, pass. Light, smoke, puff, pass. Light, smoke, puff, pass. Puff, pass. Puff, pass. Slide in like a shadow with a samurai posture. Voice cut through the static like I'm chopping a opera. Ghost in the cipher. Glitch in the system. Flow, hold, weight like the sense of a fake film. Feel the rhythm. Versus the trick is a cataclysm. Filling the berry bar like a priestess controlling an exorcism. I spark the leaf, but the bars hit harder. Sharper than the barber with a blade shaving at the parlor. Farther than I can push it, harder than the book. Then checking the king with strategies for place outside your fucking booklet. Made my own lane if you follow with me and where I took it. Better expect the detours cause elevation ain't always how it's looking. They want gems, I mine deep. This ain't surface talk. Scribble the scriptures in the margin. Roll it back to surface mark. As a matter of fact, I'm making a plot to burn up the wax that's making them cough. And make them relax when the cipher sparks. That blunt little revelation. Pass the blood all around the circle. Call that ring of fire. Now we high spitting verses and the smoke's the amplifier. Sound of elevate these verses till it echoes through the sound of verbal war drums beating, no half-measure weapons. I sound off, shoot a round off, dropping more weight than the fat dude trying to shave a pound off. You fuckers sound soft, watch your birds bounce off, leaving with them dudes blazing and smoking an ounce off. A heavy hitter, you little critters could never get with us. You get the jitters and wither away from venom spitters. I'm ready to smoke up, loke up all day. You want the life, but you going at it the wrong way. I got a playmate, homie, but hey, wait, vacate the stage cause your flow was a day late. I flip styles, you flip burgers. I'm in the middle of a merger committing lyrical murder. You never heard of me, that's a fucking absurdity. I'm turning up the heat, you're screaming to stop hurting me. I got my heater pointed right where it ought to be. My 4/5 about to give you one lobotomy. Pass the blood all around the circle.
Really satisfying return there.
Now we high spitting verses and the smoke's the amplifier. Sound of elevate these verses till it echoes through the sound of verbal war drums beating, no half-measure weapons. Light, smoke, puff, pass. Light, smoke, puff, pass.
Nice reiteration of the original motif.
Light, smoke, puff, pass. Light, smoke, puff,
Shooting for the moon, overshot and hit Mars. Now I'm Aries on the mic, on the wall with these bars. We some lyrical luchadors, step up and get dropped. You might be popular, but man's not hot. Don't care about your chart talk, honestly it bore me. Especially when this Glock on my hip is top 40. Water, ew, tell me where to go. You swear that you're pimping, but your captain save a hoe. Sugar free on the top, Poseidon with the flow. So even my freestyles cost with pro quo. Era OG, smoking on sour. Thanos when I snap, I got the power. He-Man with the AK, Johnny Blaze on the chopper. Torture whole team, paper soldiers just fodder. Ew, baby I like it raw sushi. Spit rings of fire, got Suki.
Pass the blood all around the circle. Call that ring of fire. Now we high spitting verses and the smoke's the amplifier. Sound of elevate these verses till it echoes through the sound of verbal war drums beating, no half-measure weapons.
Fantastic. Just a really solid effort all around, sounds commercial grade. We're going to talk about this track more in the conclusion. And so welcome to the conclusion of my review of this track from an act named Vynez titled Ashes to Echoes featuring Be Real and TDP Boba Fatsax. So in this section I'm going to talk about a few things that I quite liked about this track, a few of the highlights as well as any sort of like applicable constructive critique, and then finally my overall thoughts on it from a general listener's perspective. But first of all, what do we think this track is about? I kind of imagine this is like with the ring of fire and kind of smoking and puffing and sort of passing it around. as Vynez and Be Real and TDP Boba Fatsax kind of having their go on the microphone and sort of like spitting their truth, talking about their sort of like situations with others, people talking about like glitches in the systems, being bored of people talking about like the charts and everything like that, and the Glock being in the top 40, and like the wordplay with like smoking up, not just literally smoking, but also sort of smoking the competition, so to speak. There's that kind of sort of familiar sort of us versus the mechanic of the kind of like the kind of supremacy in the rap game, but it's also related to, again, like smoking weed. And I like the fact that we talk about in that Ring of Fire the verses and lyrics being elevated and just kind of becoming part of the ether. And I appreciate that it kind of makes sense for the teamwork to exist here. It's just a very sort of well thought out concept. I think one of the things that's a personal highlight for me within this track are the vocals, and I know that's a given in rap and hip hop, but it's just there's a few specific sort of like little things that make that up. One of them is that all the vocalists involved in each of their respective sort of like verses can clearly rap well. They also have different styles. The words come through clearly. They're proficient on the microphone. They have different personalities. They express themselves differently. Because they are different, it's more interesting because you get range there. And I think that some of the flow, especially some of the faster stuff that was going on in the first verse, was a bit like you were kind of like trying to hold on for dear life in some parts, but it's just we're so good at what we do, and then we know to kind of slow it down for the choruses afterwards. I think it was nice to have the sung melodic vocals and the different layers there that sound a little bit like everything's kind of like sunk into the ether. The layering of it was some sort of gritty, sort of like not discordant, but like there was a bit of kind of like hum and kind of like gristle to it. But it was also really kind of pretty sounding at the same time. It worked really well alongside the kind of flamenco kind of like classical style guitar that we had going on there. We also had some woodwinds or brass or something like that, what had a really nice kind of mid-range resonance there. But just before going off and talking about the instrumental parts, I just want to sort of shout out the attention to detail with all the different vocal layers, as well as the actual technicality, proficiency of the performance itself was sublime, and it made for a really interesting 3 minutes 55. I found myself getting lost in it. I think that's going to give you a general idea of my experience from a general listening perspective, but just I thought this was really well done. But it's also that you have, again, the guitar, as I mentioned, the kind of the hand percussion or the alternative percussion with kind of reverbs or like kind of filtering on it to make it seem like it almost things are being summoned in the circle. And there's like a nice bass resonance and the undertow of it to sort of fill things out, but it's not too dominant. It's more kind of ominous and cinematic, should I say. And I think that's cool because, again, anyone can work an 808 into a piece. But like just having it as kind of just a sort of a darker presence in there, kind of making it sound a bit spookier, is just really kind of sick. I thought the drums had a fantastic sort of like tone to them, not just from a production perspective, which we'll talk about in a moment, but like from an actual sort of like just the actual tone of them outside of that. They was really nice and present in the mix, nice and tight sounding. So they were present and they had a great sense of groove of them. And we had a like mixture of different sort of quarters, eighths, and 16th note patterns going on there. But we also knew when not to have drums, such as earlier on. It was enough to have, again, the strings that we had with a kind of almost sort of like, the tone was almost sort of mournful, if that makes sense at all. There was a sense of gravity and drama to it, like for the drums not to be there and for things to kind of float there in the ether, and then to be sort of, I suppose, more kind of present in the verses where we had, again, more of a kind of a rhythmical focus with the rapped sections. It's just really sort of well thought out. I think we take away the drums in other choruses as well, if I'm not mistaken, or at least in like certain parts, to sort of allow there to be diversity within the composition. I think that's something that sometimes we take for granted of the drums, but when you take them away, it can just have as much of an effect. It's just like, oh, what happened here? Where are we going next? From a listener's perspective. There are these kind of gongs which go on occasionally, and there's reverb tails that go kind of around the sides of the stereo field there, and the instruments around you in the stereo field as well. I think, again, because there's reverb tails as well on the hand drums as well, and it's very kind of misty sounding, and it makes it almost seem like some sort of spiritual awakening or something along those lines. Like we are going higher. I think that's the way to think about it. The sounds sound like they're going higher. And while I'm still kind of trying to figure out like how the theme, the overall key signature choice, and some of the notes reflect the kind of purpose of the story that we're talking about here, I nonetheless liked the sound of it. It was really effective instrumentally as well, and I thought the textures amalgamated really neatly. The studio production, no, is sublime. I love the clarity again of the vocals, the guitars, the strings, the brass or the woodwinds, the hand drums, the bass and drums, everything it had its place within the stereo field and the freaky spectrum. There was no weird resonant frequencies. Again, it's commercial grade in terms of production. The vocalists were not overproduced. You could hear there are sort of authentic original textures and tones, but they were leveled in a way where they kind of traded off with one another, like we were trading that blunt around. And just, yeah, we had these like subtle risers between certain parts, like near the end of like some of the chorus or verse parts, then would kind of, again, have things stop. And a lot of the dynamic range was from a sort of instrumental perspective, again, through the taking away the drums, but you didn't need that from a production perspective because of that. So like, even if it was relatively like tightly glued within the mix, it was okay because there was that compositional diversity. The vocals were compelling enough as a focal point to not need the instrumental parts to do more, but we had some really cool sort of guitar leads and layers on the sides as well as some additional instruments kind of come up or like pepper the piece. We had cool and responsive with the vocals going around on the sides and then being a bit more sort of subtle after the sort of the main messaging of the choruses, and there was sub-layering and main layering, and there was just all sorts of fun ideas that made this really interesting. So yeah, honestly, just a really great sort of like time with this piece. I enjoyed listening through it. No applicable constructive critique. It's just a really solid concept on its own. There's nothing I feel that would need to be changed in order to improve it. It's just really good. The fundamentals are adhered to. From a general listener's perspective, I found myself getting lost in it. And that is not something I can say for every track I listen to. It is probably the most sincere compliment I could provide. It's simply that it was so good that it made me want to turn my reviewer brain off. And so I had to kind of catch myself and be like, no, hang on, no, you got to focus on this. But I think that's what music is meant to do. It's meant to sort of like push you in a direction and kind of make you feel something. And I feel like that's art. So it may seem like I'm glazing, but I don't think it's unnecessary. Again, it's not stuff I say often. I just really appreciate the fact that they did such a great job. And I wish them all the best of luck with the release, because thank you for watching my review of this track from an axe named Vynez titled Ashes to Echoes, featuring Be Real as well as TDP Boba Fatsax. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please go show them some love via their various social medias and YouTube page, and stay cool and stay safe. And please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they need the help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world. And I will catch you in the next SP Reacts. Spiderhands out.